October 3, 2036 was the day when everything was to change for humanity. Profound changes and discoveries have of course always existed. Agriculture and animal husbandry have steered humanity's fortunes in a new direction, just like the invention of gunpowder, the airplane, the internet. But all this was always limited to us, to Earth. The entry of the several-kilometer-long asteroid into our solar system changed that. Sky Survey Satellite 18 discovered the object above the solar ecliptic, and the automated control station named it A2036UA. The course calculation showed a high probability that this chunk came from nearby Alpha Centauri, and science went into a fit of jubilation at the possibility of studying an object from another solar system during its journey through ours. The joy was short-lived, however, because very quickly several simulations and calculations confirmed the unthinkable. A2036UA would almost certainly pass dangerously close to Earth or even hit it in early 2038. Worldwide riots were the result. The entire population of our planet was suddenly faced with an impending extinction event that would dwarf even the extinction of the dinosaurs. Action had to be taken, and in unprecedented unity, the largest 50 nations created the Blue World Order, which consisted of a global network of scientists and military forces. The task of the Blue World Order was to develop solutions for the survival of humanity and to implement them independently. Virtually unlimited resources and powers were available for this, because if the Blue World Order failed, it would be the end of all life on Earth. Two approaches were taken: the construction of gigantic underground bunkers, which quickly became known as Armageddon cities, and the attempt to use nuclear weapons to divert the asteroid, now dubbed Ragnarok, from its course. In spite of the impending fate, organizations quickly developed that disliked the sudden appearance of the Blue World Order and its power. Expropriations by the Blue World Order, who urgently needed suitable land for their bunker cities, fueled the resistance. Again and again, voices were raised, claiming that the asteroid did not exist and that the population was to be enslaved and oppressed by the Blue World Order. Among all these groups, one organization in particular stood out: the Red Legion. Tightly organized along military lines, well-equipped and with numerous members recruited through sensational propaganda campaigns, this group differed from all the others in one thing in particular: they did not protest or demand anything. They simply carried out acts of sabotage and attacks on Blue World Order facilities and personnel whenever they could. In April 2037, the weapons platform Shewang Hope, which had been completed in record time, was finally launched into space with its 6 nuclear warheads and put on an intercept course. Billions of people, virtually everyone with a TV or internet access, watched the launch. For the next 4 months, the live feeds of the Shewang's position, footage from its exterior cameras and data on the rocket's condition were the most accessed information on the web. On August 27, 2037, the Shewang reached the asteroid. A few minutes later, the Sky Survey satellites in Earth orbit registered the bright flash of a nuclear explosion and unusually high radiation levels. The asteroid had been hit, but instead of deflecting it, the first bomb literally shattered the entire chunk. Most of the shards were slowed down, causing them to be captured in a wide Earth orbit in the following months. This swarm would later become known as the Damocles Ring. The rest of Ragnarok, however, shot towards Earth in the form of rock fragments and dust. Physicists calculated a much better prognosis for humanity's survival, and when the sky burned with incandescent meteors on June 3, 2038, the bunkers of the Blue World Order were full of people, fear and prayers. When it was certain that the bombardment from space was over, the people left the bunkers and found a new world. The destruction was conceivably small compared to the original catastrophe, but scattered all over the planet, just like yellowish-green shimmering crystals that appeared around the impact craters of the meteorites that had not burned up. Initial investigations resulted in 3 findings. First, these crystals were energy carriers with an incredibly high energy density. A 170 terawatt fusion power plant could be operated for over 20 years with just 1 ton of the material dubbed essentium. Secondly, after a devastating accident at MIT, which destroyed most of the campus, it was discovered that essentium could be made unstable with a little effort, and that even the smallest amounts had a devastating destructive power. And finally, because of the crystalline structure and the molecular and atomic makeup, it was found that this material could not be of natural origin. Since the Essentium crystals came from Ragnarok, the Blue World Order declared these deposits to be their business and began to collect the crystals worldwide to ensure peaceful use and to give mankind clean energy in abundance. Of course, there were nations that refused, as they had their own plans for the crystals that had fallen on their territory. The military superiority of the Blue World Order made most nations rethink. The Red Legion, on the other hand, had become a global network of freedom fighters or terrorists, depending on whom you ask. In a race with the Blue World Order, they captured large quantities of Essentium and traded it on the black market for weapons and high-tech military equipment to sustain their fight against the Blue World Order. It was not long before the first meteorites from the Damocles ring, torn from their orbit by the moon's gravity, broke loose and came down on Earth, causing more battles to be fought over what was now commonly called
Skyfall.